Respected teachers and my dear friends, today I am here to present my dissertation project based on the topic Does religious decision or non-religious decision has more priority given in architecture, and can different religions be worshipped in a single space? First of all, religion means it's a group of people with some set of rules, and different religions have different set of rules. And religion is a sort of belief system, but not all belief systems are religious. Religion serves as both a mental and a social framework. Social structure provides as a sense of belonging, and mental structure contains ideals to accept or reject. No human beings lives in a society whose social policies are not driven by some universally accepted moral principles. Every person's existence has the ethical power. It can also arise from both religious or secular sources. And that's all about religion. And now coming to religion in terms of architecture, let's talk about symbol and symbolism. Symbol is a representation, visual or conceptual, which is unseen and invisible. Symbols are a part of language of faith, the means by which faith expresses itself when it interprets the Holy Spirit, when it communicates the claims and demands. While symbolism is mainly a derivation of faith, symbolism is transferred in architecture in terms of shape, form, mass, organization, orientation of spaces. Symbol and symbolisms are mainly effective in communicating rich messages than speeches. In architecture, this involves a development of an experience in terms of depth of space. Coming to the need of the research, first of all, the reason for which I chose this topic to be researched was a lack of unity and plenty of violations happening in India against religious institutions. Religious violence in India includes act of violence by followers of one religious group against followers and institutions of another religious group in the form of rioting. Some of the examples are the Indian Rebellion of 1857, which occurred during the 18th century during the colonial period. Secondly, partition of Bengal, which happened during the late 18th century and early 19th century. Then the Gujarat communal riots of modern era during the 20th century. The major reason was the partition of 1947 in India created a violence between Hindu, Muslim Sikh, Muslim Jain, etc. Religion was divided by Britishers to divide people in India to categories for conducting elections. Actually, there is no issues of violence on the basis of sacred spaces. It's the back history only which became a reason. My central research question is, how are religion and architecture connected to form a religious architectural relationship? My central research questions are: first one, what are the architectural features of Indian subcontinent in relation to different religions? Second one, which all are the different religions found in India and their spiritual spaces conducted to them? Third one, is it necessary to worship within an architectural space? My aim is to identify the possibility of forming an interfaith choice or practice of worshipping. Coming to objectives, first one, to do analysis on how different religions evolved at different locations. Second one, how are their way of worshipping done based on their elements of architecture. Basically, literature review was done on the basis of this flowchart. First of all, considering India, North Indian religious architecture and South Indian religious architecture was analyzed, and under this, evolution and way of worshipping of each religion found in India was analyzed, such as Jainism, Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, Sikhism, as well as Buddhism. Inference from the literature reviews. First of all, the scope of religious architecture. This comprises the design and building of temples, mosques, cathedrals, gurudwaras, and other places of worship, as well as the landscape, gardens, and water features that surround them and provide visitors with a serene and meditative settings. Secondly, the evolution of spaces. The reason behind the growth of religious architectural spaces in India are the impact of many religious and cultural traditions, as well as technological and aesthetic meaning. For example, the Islamic impact of religious architecture is visible in the construction of mosques such as the Jama Masjid Delhi with its beautiful domes and minarets. Next is about the exterior interaction. The outside design and environment are designed to attract the guest and establishing the tone for their spiritual journey. Outside interface, for example in the Hindu temples, includes beautiful carvings, sculptures depicting the legendary stories and holy characters. Interior interaction. Religious interiors are designed to bring the visitors into deeper spiritual experience. The utilization of light, sound, sensory aspects enriches the spiritual experience and inspires visitors with amazement. Factors based on sustainability. These religious spaces may or may not be constructed using conventional methods and materials that might be environmentally friendly. The growing number of visitors and the worshippers visiting these sites has resulted in the increased population, which has a negative impact on the surrounding ecosystem. Accessibility. Here we talk about one of the key features about gender accessibility is the absence of secure and private worship venues for women. In India, many religious architecture buildings feature distinct rooms for men and women. These spaces are some insufficient with no privacy or security. And finally, their strength and weakness. Two of the examples of the strength are the spiritual significance as well as the community gathering. And coming to weakness, it is the gender inequalities as well as the environmental impacts facing. Methodology speaks about the various ways in which I took my literature case studies and reviewed them. And this list shows the various worshipping spaces of northern side of India and southern side of India. The reason which I took these two extent of India is all about the various riots and violence happening all over India, and these regions are more focusing about these riots. Some of the parameters which I used to research my study are the features of religious architecture, which includes it's a sacred place of worship, and they includes historical aspects of architecture, and many cultures are devoted here, and these spaces show a monolithic and most impressive form, and this can be either public, private or semi-private areas, and in the compared to the form, it has a sacred geometry, iconography and sophistic semiodes, which means the signs, symbols and religious motifs. Previous one was the factors considering a religious architecture, and now we are talking about the factors considering a religious process. There are three of them, which are longitudinal space, which is mainly used for the procession purpose, and auditorium, mainly for the discussion of matter, and a minimal communal space, which is helpful for the intimacy working. And these are the support on which the reviews was done as previously described. Coming to the results, comparisons were made based on the case studies which I have done. Here I took as an example of Kedarnath temple from the northern region and Brihadishwar temple from the southern region, and the comparison which I realized are the height and layout of worship areas differ by location. Worship places in northern region where population are more concentrated has smaller and more private spaces. For example, the Kedarnath temple, and worship places in the south where populations are more dispersed have bigger and more sprawling spaces which are accommodating larger groups. For example, the Brihadishwar temple. Secondly, which I realized is the high platform on which the temples are built. For example, the Ranakpur temple from the northern side has a flight of stairs which leading to the entrance platform, and coming to the Tirumalai Jain temple has a minimal low plinth levels, and the Ranakpur temple has more steepless towers and ornate decorations, and comparing to the Tirumalai temple from the southern side has more relaxed informal manner with basic designs and more open spaces. And next is about the journey to reach certain locations such as the Kedarnath temple and the Tirumalai Jain temple. Like the Kedarnath temple has a long journey to reach the temple, which is the major idea of attaining moksha, and even the Tirumalai Jain temple also has a higher journey platform from the temple portion to the cave portion, which situates above the temple. The temple planning of Jain temple is like they have four faced central sanctum at the center, which has an image of their god, which is in a sitting position faced back to back in four cardinal directions. And they also have four doorways facing these cardinal directions. Coming to the Hindu temple planning, they have a single entrance with the deity present the idol, and the worshipping the idol is a way of connecting their divine. Evolution of different worshipping spaces has a major role in the development of different styles of worshipping spaces. Considering the examples of Jama Masjid in Delhi and Tartangadi Juma Masjid in Kerala, they have different styles of architecture. Jama Masjid Delhi as an Indo-Islamic architecture, which is a combination of Indian and Islamic elements, and while coming to the Tartangadi Juma Masjid has a Kerala style architecture, which combines the Kerala traditions and Islamic elements. So this speaks about the major idea of their major role of climatic factors that has a significant contributions in developing architecture styles. Coming to the discussion, these both regions, which is the northern and southern regions of India, has some similarities found. Firstly, Jainism has a symmetry, which is the method of achieving harmony and balancing in the area, and the mantras and prayers used by them to connect to the deities and seek their blessings. And then coming to the Islamic stage, they have high value on community, so the result of worshipping together, and they have the elements in common such as the arches, domes and minarets. And coming to the Christianity, they have centralized layout plans followed, usage of arches, wall ceilings and bell towers, and the music pronunciation for connecting with the divine. Coming to Hindus, their usage of geometric patterns, symmetry and elaborate carvings, and their adoration of numerous deities followed. And next is the Sikhism, in which they have a pool known as Sarovar for cleansing and purification purpose, and their major worship venue is known as Darbar Sahib, which is found in both regions. And their practice of Lanjar, which means the communal sharing of a vegetarian meal. It's actually a place for meal providing. And finally to the Buddhism, which has their pillars and meditation spaces, and their designate noteworthy locations, which inscribes the Buddha's lives. Finally, coming to the conclusion, while considering the analysis and the common factors found throughout the two comparison regions, in a place like India, the country's constitution and religious tolerance and privileged traditions gives a foundation for accepting diverse religions in public settings. Thank you.